Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. Today, I'm going to be ranking the cartoon crooks of the Looney Tunes cinematic universe. Oh, and I will be including the Tiny Toons movie, just to make my list a little bit longer. So let's get ranking. Sylvester from Tweety's High-Flying Adventure. When Granny makes a bet that Tweety can travel the world in 80 days, Sylvester becomes determined to hunt the canary across the globe and finally eat his prey. I'll give Sylvester this. He's a very determined predator in High-Flying Adventure. This cat is willing to wait for days in a city just for Tweety and happily travels to every country he can to potentially dine on the yellow bird. Sadly, this impressive commitment can only go so far. You see, this movie tries to stretch the average Sylvester and Tweety cartoon formula into a feature film. And boy does it not do Sylvester any favors as a villain. In a typical Sylvester and Tweety short, Sylvester is the punching bag for comedy, and that does not translate well for movie villainy. All because every single time the salivating predator tries to attack our lead hero, he always misses the punch or gets brutally humiliated. Each defeat lacking the imagination and genius of classic Golden Age Looney Tunes because the film lets its cheap straight-to-video animation limit its creativity.
Mommy!
Look, it's totally okay for a villain to make bad mistakes or show weaknesses, but Sylvester does nothing but lose. Heck, Sylvester only gets a hold of Tweety a few times, and Tweety easily escapes every time, all while Tweety himself is handed constant wins, and some obstacles he faces just conveniently land him in the next country. It's hard to feel any tension or threat from Sylvester as a villain, when we know that the feline will always fail as a predator. Sometimes, Sylvester gets some help from other predators, but he still somehow ends up miserably screwing up.
Stupid mercenary pussycat!
It gets so boring to watch Sylvester trying and failing for the entire film, so much so that I can't even credit him for any kind of knack or talent that he excels at. Every trick he attempts is instantly foiled, and none of his skills have any worth. Yes, Sylvester does eventually come up with a clever scheme to frame Tweety, but Tweety's arrest only lasts 5 seconds because the cat once again messes up.
You're under arrest for stealing a missing royal passport.
Sylvester's running joke as a Looney Tune is that he's embarrassingly bad at catching his prey, which might work well for a 5-minute gag-filled short, but High-Flying Adventure proves that the same recipe is rendered useless and dull for movie villainy. Mr. Chairman from Looney Tunes back in action. The head of Acme, Mr. Chairman, is determined to get a hold of the blue monkey, which he can use to transform the population into primates so they can have monkey employees for his factories, and then turn said slaves back into consumers for his shoddy products. The biggest drawback for this villain is his actor, Steve Martin. Look, I'm a huge fan of Steve's old comedy movies, but the 2000s were not kind to Mr. Martin, and Back in Action was one of his lowest points. I get that Steve is trying to be a live-action cartoon, but what he delivers is just plain embarrassing, because he's been given 0 restrictions as an actor, and the end result is an awkward, confusing, and excessive performance.
I reveal to you the whereabouts of the blue monkey.
Mr. Chairman is goofy enough to be funny to easily amuse little kids, but I never ever found him to be funny in the slightest, because Steve is trying way too desperately hard to get laughs, and it's really difficult to watch him flatline. This means that we're stuck with an unfunny comedy villain who is played so silly and over the top that he can't make up for his cringe with any menace or threat. Mr. Chairman may be a powerful figure who's managed to capture a great spy, but those credentials are let down by his childlike fashion sense, really odd delivery, and bizarre walk.
You're a sick man, you know that? I'll get used to it.
However, I can find some positives for this villain, most notably how he turns the most antagonistic Looney Tunes into his very own minions, as he utilizes each Toon's expertise or skill sets to his advantage and picks the very best Toon for each part of our hero's road trip adventure.
Under no circumstances are you to allow the young Mr. Drake and his duck cohort out of the casino in one piece. Is that clear?
Okay, you want the varmints and what they come for. I got you.
Then, once he starts running out of Toons, Mr. Chairman resorts to disguises that rely on cartoon logic, while relying on our heroes to get the blue monkey for him. Does his disguise reveal gag go on for way too long? Oh, totally. But I'll still give him credit for his strategy.
right now. I've come for the diamond.
I knew it was you.
Let's also not forget that Acme is a weapons and gadgets corporation, which actually aids Mr. Chairman quite effectively, whether he needs to kill off a hero in spectacular fashion or make sure that his captives don't escape. While Mr. Chairman's negatives are very loud and noticeable, I can still put these complaints aside and appreciate his strengths as a villain. I just wish that someone told Steve Martin to tone down the scenery chewing and weird acting decisions. Swackhammer from Space Jam. When Mr. Swackhammer's theme park, Moron Mountain, starts to lose customers due to a lack of good attractions, he orders his minions, the Nerdlucks, to bring him the Looney Tunes. However, the Tunes refuse to surrender to Moron Mountain unless the Nerdlucks can win a basketball game against them. I'll admit that Swackhammer's appeal is limited to just two things: his fantastic design, which gives the stumpy cigar-chomping businessman caricature a fun alien spin, and the terrifically charismatic Danny DeVito, whose gravelly, deep pipes sync perfectly with a chunky, crooked mogul.
What if they can't come? Make them.
That's all I can really praise though. No, he's not a rubbish villain, but it is difficult to scrape for compliments for him or point out what makes him remarkable. There's certainly something unnerving about how he treats our heroes like expendable attractions, and is willing to enslave them forever. But as a sports movie antagonist, well, apart from an impressive sniffing skill in the locker room, he's lacking big time. I mean, after the basketball event is announced, we never get to see Swackhammer's reaction to said challenge, and he just spends most of the game calling out generic commentary or stock one-liners from his luxury box.
How did he do that?
This joke is good though.
I didn't know Dan Aykroyd was in this picture.
He's no talented sports strategist either. His only coaching directions in the film are vague instructions like keep playing good. Heck, he doesn't even seem that passionate about basketball.
All right. Not bad for the first half, but we gotta keep this up.
If I'm frank, the Nerdlucks actually steal a lot of Swackhammer's spotlight, all because they have more screen time and chemistry with the Toons, come up with the original idea to steal NBA talents, and make for intimidating players on the court.
Did you order original recipe or extra crispy?
Sure, I'm not surprised that an overwealthy tycoon is lazy and unimaginative, but making his minions into the more credible antagonists is quite the disservice to Swackhammer's villainy, and also explains why everyone remembers the Monstars way more than him. Marvin the Martian from Rabbit's Run. In this film, Lola ends up making a perfume that can turn anything invisible, and said concoction attracts the attention of many people, including Cecil the Turtle, who turns out to be working for Marvin the Martian, a spaceman who wants to turn Earth invisible just so that he can have a better view of Venus. Now Marvin is off screen for a whole hour in this movie, but Cecil does end up helping paint his boss as merciless and relentless, someone who's not only willing to make his minions stalk characters across the globe, but also murder Toons in cold blood once they're useless. There's also some somewhat passable clues to Marvin being our villain too, from how he's one of the only major Looney Tunes that's been absent in the movie, to the fact that his henchmen are carrying laser guns that are clearly his brand.
I'm afraid the only shooting around here is gonna be done by us.
However, once Marvin finally makes his big reveal, I can't say that he delivers much. Don't get me wrong, there's some scary stakes to his scheme. I mean, can you imagine the chaos and destruction that he would cause if our world was completely invisible? I'm getting existential dread just thinking about it.
But if everything was invisible, wouldn't there be mass confusion? I mean, cars would crash into each other, planes would collide, people would die!
Unfortunately, Marvin leans more to being a dope in the climax, because he's developed a new habit of losing his most dangerous gadgets. And true to the formula, he's easily tricked by Bugs Bunny. Sure, I get that Marvin is supposed to be a comedic antagonist, but his one repeated joke of oops, I lost this thing gets old fast.
The Captivator? The place where you hold someone captive? It's...
2, we've been waiting the whole movie for this murderous mystery threat to appear, so it's rather anticlimactic that he's played for laughs. On top of all of this, Bugs ends up finding Marvin's modulator completely by accident, and our villain ends up blowing up his very own planet, which I guess is funny in a way, but it's also a bit of a detriment to Marvin's villainy in the movie, which was already a letdown. To be honest, I found Marvin to be a better foe in Back in Action, which cast him as a minion to Mr. Chairman because that film managed to make Marvin into a worthy cosmic threat for our heroes while remaining faithful to his gullible personality.
Earthlings have the worst sense of direction.
Yosemite Sam from the compilation films. Fiery Cowboy Yosemite Sam is frequently cast as the antagonist in Looney Tunes package films, often playing some kind of recurring villain in each film's wraparound sequences. I will say that Sam really excels at versatility. Whatever a film casts him as, Sam delivers in oodles. His volcanic temper can help him to be commanding as an authority figure, plus he was honestly born to play a ruthless pirate, all thanks to his bushy facial hair and scratchy bellowing voice. He knows that he's a short, stubby man who's all bark, but he will compensate for this by ordering a stronger tune to do his dirty work for him.
Take over.
Only his more authoritative positions can grant him the power to threaten characters with execution or torture. Plus, let's not forget that Sam is a weapons man, and dang is he the last person who should be allowed arms of any kind, because he's more oversensitive than a toddler.
Pistols at 10 paces?
You're on!
Okay, yes, Sam is also a very gullible fool, who is frequently tricked countless times in these films. The man is astoundingly moronic and has a tremendous habit of making self-owns. However, these movies are essentially cartoon collections made up of classic Looney Tunes shorts, Golden Age gems made by the masters, so there's a high guarantee that a Yosemite Sam blunder in one of these films will either be hilariously embarrassing or wickedly inventive. To be fair as well, I did notice a more intelligent side to Sam in these films. No really, if Sam has a petty or selfish goal set in stone, his anger-fueled brainpower can inspire some impressive imagination or logic. From using Daffy's feather to work out who stole his treasure map, to relying on a fishing rod to unthread and escaping Bugs Bunny's flying carpet, to being the only character in Fantastic Island who makes a smart wish.
Too late, Duck. I already wished for a pirate ship.
All in all, Sam is certainly one of the stronger attempts at making a toon into a main movie villain, even if he does lack a lot of dignity half of the time. Rocky from the Looney Bugs Bunny movie. In the second act of this Looney Tunes compilation movie, old shorts and new animation are combined to tell the thrilling story of Bugs becoming an agent who has been assigned to take down the infamous gangster Rocky. Out of every toon that gets turned into a movie villain, Rocky works the best because he's actually a very dangerous criminal who gives off an intimidating vibe with his shrouded eyes, creepily calm demeanor, and emotionally stunted voice.
Okay, Duck. No more stalling, see? You got just 5 minutes to light that egg or...
Rocky also demonstrates a lot of competence as a villain, because he genuinely means no nonsense and tends to play serious straight man against other toons. Not only is he fully capable of outwitting or duping characters, but he will also threaten or beat up any toons that reject his requests. Heck, you can't even escape this brute's clutches, because he's so good at keeping the threat high and making sure that his victims don't bail on his demands. Now yes, Rocky is not immune to humiliation, and he can end up being the punchline sometimes. However, it's rare that he fails, and it's entertaining to watch him lose, because he'll either be defeated in a really creative way that utilizes the freedom of cartoon logic, or he'll amusingly mess up a crime just because his minions are dumber than him.
Alright, Muggsy. Step on the gas. Come back, you dimwit.
It's also really fun watching Rocky and Bugs playing a cat and mouse game, because both toons are equally efficient at what they do, and so there's this constant back and forth duel going on. Like, sure, Bugs is smart enough to be steps ahead of Rocky, but Rocky is also a rich gangster who can afford to exploit the court system.
I insist on his immediate release under the precedent set by Section 8, Paragraph 95 of Rogers versus Semper Fidelis.
Case dismissed.
Oh, and the punchline to this battle of wits is great too, because while our villain ends up in jail, Bugs makes one last mistake as an agent that screws him over. Mr. Hitch from Tiny Toons, How I Spent My Vacation. In this road trip movie, a serial killer called Mr. Hitch is on the loose, and this psycho ends up crossing paths with the Tiny Toons. It's easy for me to say that this is the scariest villain on my list. Tiny Toons is renowned for being surprisingly adult for a morning kids cartoon, and Mr. Hitch is yet another example of how taboo the show could be. I mean, there's no sugarcoating what he is. This is a wanted murderer full of bloodlust who is basically a cross between Leatherface and Jason Voorhees. Two horror icons that kids are way too young to know about. There's no complicated lore or psychological backstory for this maniac. He's just a straightforward evil nutcase that gets sick excitement from terrorizing animal kids, only ever opening his mouth to bark various ways that he can cook and serve his victims.
Bacon, pork chops, hog joes.
His trademark weapon, as you can see, is a roaring chainsaw, which he loves to wave about like a doy. Every swing of this chainsaw comes nail-bitingly close to the critters, and our only comfort is knowing that a kids movie won't spill these Tiny Toons' guts. There's so many forces against our character's survival look too, all because the adults aren't taking Hitch's news reports seriously, or simply aren't paying attention to the chaos around them. Heck, the film won't even let other kids come to our character's rescue.
Dear Shelley.
Come on, Cheryl. It's Dad-Got movie time.
Mando Dragula.
It's all up to the children themselves to be their own heroes, which sure is a horrifying fact, but it's also kind of inspiring to see our young characters fend for themselves and foil a threat that the adults fail to protect them from. It's all very Stephen King-esque. Rocky. From Taz's Quest for Burger, when Quinn the Bandicoot's father and vegetable pile get stolen by outlaws, little Quinn teams up with Taz the Tasmanian Devil to go rescue her father, and we eventually learn that Rocky, the leader of these outlaw dingoes, was once Taz's dad. Rocky is a delightfully fun and fancy villain with an elegantly well-spoken tongue and a way with jokey banter.
It's not fair!
See, that's another law, and we need to discuss alternative teaching methods. I'm worried Quinn may be falling behind.
More than that though, he's also highly capable as an antagonist and one of the smarter two movie baddies, a thug who embraces the lawlessness and freedom of his criminal lifestyle, while also demonstrating a gift for strategic leadership. This is an outlaw leader that might call his tribe a family, but it's so obvious that he prioritizes their useful worth over any kind of kinship. He knows each of his friends' best talents, but he's also willing to sacrifice anyone who offers nothing special.
That's why Lou here is going to have the first bite.
I am?
You are!
Let's also not forget that this is the same baddie who has managed to kidnap the Outback's finest chef, so that his gang can keep themselves fed without lifting a finger, only for Rocky to then use Quinn's kidnapping to inspire an expansion to his catering slave scheme.
And then you bring the heat down, and you tell your daughter that no matter what happens, you love her very much.
What if you don't have a daughter? Can you use eggs instead?
If this villain was a human, I can bet that he would be one hell of a successful mafia boss. The revelation that Rocky raised Taz not only helps to explain Taz's mental lacking and poor self-care, but also shows another example of Rocky's instinct for controlling others. You see, while Taz is a tough cookie with a forte for tornado spinning, Rocky knows his own son's fragile weaknesses, and dang does our villain exploit them perfectly.
Looks like he's heading for that cliff.
Heck, this is the crafty leader who, after losing his exceptionally strong son, wisely hired a dingo that could not only take Taz's place, but also potentially outmatch our hefty hero upon return.
Wow, you very big dingo.
That's the thing, Rocky is excellent at adjusting to setbacks and thinking on his feet. He's creative enough to use jungle resources to cross tricky obstacles, and he's also able to very quickly adapt to the breaking of his trademark fiddle.
Every good musician knows how to improvise.
Thankfully, this wretched dingo gets the most disgusting and humiliating defeat out of every Looney Tunes movie villain, a loss that's so gross and traumatic that it turns the once cocky Rocky practically insane. Algae Rhythm from Space Jam: A New Legacy. A powerful AI called Algae Rhythm tries to pitch his new fun app to basketball star LeBron James, but LeBron rejects the concept and even mocks its creator. So Al ends up trapping LeBron and his son Dom in the Serververse, where the NBA legend must team up with the Looney Tunes to beat Al at a virtual basketball battle based on Dom's own video game. A New Legacy is a very mixed bag of a movie to me, a hodgepodge of a sequel that improves on some areas of the 1996 original, but also doubles down on the first film's worst aspects. However, I have to class Al as one of the movie's rare strengths. Don't get me wrong, his name screams corporate cynicism, and he has his flaws. Like, you can tell that the filmmakers were so focused on making their sequel bigger and better than the first film that Al's actions end up being dictated by the sequel's desperate want to fill in plot holes or raise the stakes, which does make our villain's motives, well, messy. For example, it is scary that our villain is threatening to trap humans in his cyber universe and delete the iconic Looney Tunes. But isn't this basketball game supposed to be a PR stunt to promote his app and personal image? I don't think the threatening beloved celebrities and innocent people in a live stream will help with that endeavor. Contradictions like this aside, Al is still a pretty good villain. Thanks to the charms of Don Cheadle, this AI comes off as a charismatic and suave showman, who's not only skilled at planning an event this huge, but also commands himself with confidence as a host. He knows exactly how to own the stage and hype up every aspect of his spectacle-filled show.
From the beautiful mind of Dominic James, introducing the Goon Squad!
It's this very hubris that makes him really excel as a narcissistic manipulator, as he uses his magnetic personality and creepy surveillance research for gaining influence over LeBron's impressionable son, to both have the upper hand at the basketball game and express spiteful pettiness towards the NBA legend that rejected him.
He's manipulating you.
Whoa, 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 why are you using all these charged words of deleting, manipulate, kidnap?
Dom is already feeling very underappreciated by his dad, but Al makes it worse by scratching at Dom's frustrations, so that the boy becomes more susceptible to siding with our villain, with Al not only showering this child prodigy with the paternal praise that he's been starving for, but also going to sly lengths to normalize unfair advantages, so that Dom is less likely to protest once Al abuses his freedom to cheat. Behind all the glitzy flash, though, is a very insecure artificial intelligence who struggles to hold his cocky arrogance together. The more of a chance that he has of losing the basketball game, the more fragile and sensitive that this evil AI becomes. And that panicked fear translates into angry vitriol.
I expected a lot more out of you, son. Get your head in the game. I need to win.
Heck, you could argue that Al's shallow and selfish guidance closely mirrors LeBron's own parenting style, thus showing Mr. James that he's not been any better than a control freak villain. Funnily though, after trying desperately hard to become a more recognized persona, the fame-hungry Al faces a rather ironic villain defeat. Diego von Schniffenstein from King Tweety. One day, Queen Aruga of the Canary Island is kidnapped, and Tweety is next in line for the throne. However, the despicable royal advisor, Diego, is plotting to assassinate Tweety and take the throne for himself. I'll confess that I had low expectations for this villain, because he's a well-worn trope in a straight-to-video movie, but I actually ended up regretting my cynical predictions. First of all, Diego is pretty good at keeping Tweety from suspecting his devious plans. Sure, we find out the truth quite soon, but Diego gushes over and panders to Tweety so much that we end up buying that the Canary's guard is completely down. Even when Tweety does become suspicious, Diego is very quick to shut him down with a luxury distraction.
We should really find out what happened to her.
Would you like to see the royal bedroom?
There's also plenty of fun to be had from Diego's bizarre and ludicrous murder attempts. Each idea that he has for killing Tweety is a darkly funny surprise. Plus, it's a riot seeing Sylvester switching up his usual dynamic by making him have to desperately protect Tweety for once, something that he's actually better at than hunting. Sure, none of these assassination attempts leave a scratch on Tweety, but that doesn't stop the evil K9 from playing a different card, framing Sylvester. Not only is it impressive that this is an improvised scheme, but the clues left behind are frustratingly perfect. This man is wildly inventive as a corrupt advisor, whether his target is a murder victim or a fall guy.
This suspicious individual ain't the king, ma'am.
Sylvester!
I also really enjoyed the lore-deep backstory for Diego too. It's rich in detail, yet easy to follow, plus inspires some exciting fantasy world building that bitingly satirizes entitled imperialism with classic Looney Tunes wit. You see, he's actually an immortal sorcerer who has been trying to colonize this bird island ever since he first invaded. Despite failing to end the royal ancestral line, he's still been successfully stealing the magic tail feathers of every canary monarch he's killed, an achievement that might have taken yonks, but pays off immensely once he turns all of these feathers into a powerful enchanted boa. It took a bonkers amount of patience for this villain to spend centuries on such a project. Let's also give him some creativity points for making it fashionable too.
Magic.
It's absolutely gripping seeing this once groveling little pooch going full Super Saiyan and becoming the most imposing Looney Tunes movie villain to date. The film builds up his unflinching indestructibility and unlimited sorcery magic fantastically well, all by hyping up Diego's new ominous transformation and making our hero's best attack seem hopelessly feeble. Luckily, we get a pretty awesome final boss takedown, a scene that falls between being inspiring, movingly wholesome, and hilariously ridiculous all at the same time. I never expected a Looney Tunes movie finale to give me goosebumps, yet I was genuinely wowed by this climactic battle against a dog kaiju. The Invader, from the day the Earth blew up. After Porky and Daffy get a job at a chewing gum factory, Daffy witnesses a creepy scientist pouring green goo into the gum vat. Then, once said gum flies off the shelves, every consumer becomes a gumless zombie, and it turns out that an alien invader is behind the whole scheme. Out of every animated Looney Tunes movie villain, this is certainly the most charismatic and expressive one. A flamboyant prima donna from space, with big scary eyes, and sharp, fangy teeth, who gesticulates like a stage diva. Oh, and what a great villain cackle he has. Peter MacNicol, the highly underrated character actor, is also utterly fantastic as the Invader, giving the Galactic Menace a raspy and nasally pitched voice full of range that not only fits the Drama King, but also helps him to sound incredibly unique. MacNicol honestly kills the part, folks.
I'll just leave you two to work things out. Oh, and do enjoy the front row seat of me blowing up the Earth!
Now, yes, this antagonist spends the entire film in his spaceship lair, but that doesn't hinder him because he remains very active as a cosmic puppet master, as he utilizes power and control as the manipulator of a globe-sized zombie army.
I have you right where I want you. What do we do now? Run!
While these pink-eyed agents of the Invader are mindless shells, they remain pretty intimidating minions to their master, scaring our heroes enough to force them into sheltering. Oh, and they're granted a heap of super abilities, all thanks to the elasticity of their gum hybrids. The gum monsters themselves are actually even worse than the brainwashed humans, because they're essentially rubbery alien creatures that can dart around fluidly and attack with force. Not to mention, the Invader can also sneakily use each monster's eye to observe and spy on our heroes. Oh, and special mention to the Invader's right-hand man, the possessed scientist. A mindless himbo of a bloke whose lack of brain cells bounce off hilariously against the Invader's low patience and weak tolerance.
Chew, chew, chew!
Fine, bring it here. Chop, chop. Hurry up, come on.
Whoa, chew!
In a twist though, it's later revealed that this Invader had no malicious motive behind his scheme, but rather wanted to protect humanity from an asteroid. Does he still count as a villain? Oh yeah, totally. Because while he had noble intent, he still committed mass brainwashing by contaminating a public product. Plus, he's mainly only saving Earth to protect his favorite drink.
Isn't that a boba drink?
Boba.
The Invader becomes an anti-hero who puts aside his pride and immaturity to let competent Earthlings save their planet in their own way. It's up to audiences to decide if he's a redeemable villain, and I can see both sides. Because what he did was pretty unethical and dangerous, but he still saved the Earth in the name of boba. Feel free to watch my other villain ranking videos. There's loads to choose from. I've been Jambareeqi, and that's all, folks.